Hi, Jackie and Bob Carpenter here from One Giant Leap Australia, and we'd like to talk to you today about the Kibo Robot Programming Challenge.
Well, actually, the Kibo Robot Programming Challenge was the first program that JAXA and the Australian Space Agency asked us to be represented, and that was in 2020. We started that, and it was a very interesting time working with all the nations in the Indo-Pacific region, and we've gone from strength to strength with it.
So Kibo Robot Programming Challenge is an amazing competition where students from high school age, well, even younger actually, because this year we had primary school students, form teams and learn how to program the robots on board the space station. Now, one of those robots is the Astro Bee and the other one is the Int Ball. Now, the Int Ball is a camera and it's so cute. It's this round sphere with a camera that looks like it's got really big eyes. And I'm seriously trying to work out how I can 3D print one because it's the cutest thing ever. And they float around on the space station, and the Int Ball is used to help navigate where the Astro Bee is. And the Astro Bee is like a cube-shaped robot. And the Astro Bee was developed by NASA Ames, and the Int Ball was developed by JAXA. So, Bob, what's the relationship? Why do we have both robots involved in the competition?
Well, the interesting part of the competition is, yes, we're programming the Astro Bee to work on the space station, but the Int Ball is running around with its cameras, and it is being used as a trial because it's going to sit over the shoulders of astronauts when they're doing projects, and so they're keeping a video record of everything that they're doing to save time and just to make sure that they've got records of everything that's being done. And it just takes a lot of the effort away from the astronauts having to just extra record what's going on.
This program, when we were asked to be part of it by the Australian Space Agency, it had only just started. So the first year was a lot of trial and error, everyone using the simulator and things going a bit crazy, like in the simulator, the robots going out into space and not being able to get back in again, things like that. So everyone has learnt a huge amount in that first year. And there's 9 countries involved. And so everyone meets once a month to talk about the issues and the problems of trying to get the simulator working and things like that. So we've come a long way from the beginning of just being asked, are we interested in running the competition? And that first year, everybody was learning, JAXA, NASA, Ames, everyone, to the point at the final round where Gail and Vex represented Australia, and they're from Victoria, a small school in Victoria, Wangaratta. Gail and Vex represented Australia, and they took out 3rd place on board the space station. So here are these high school students from Australia competing against university teams from countries like Thailand and Malaysia, Singapore, the UAE. So here's Victoria representing us, and they're battling it out in real time. So that was a 5-hour competition on board the ISS. So in real time, everyone logs in and then they upload the programming code, and then we see what happens. So the astronauts position, the robots, things like that. So that 5 hours in between moving all the robots around means that we can have a talk with the astronauts on board. We have little micro lessons about things happening on the space station. And that 5 hours flew by. It was crazy. And then every now and then they go into loss of signal. So you'd go off and make a cup of tea, come back, and then they'd be back around where we could pick up the signal from the space station again. So the first year, was a massive learning curve for everybody. And then this year, Bob, round 2, the second year of the competition, we had 500% increase in the number of groups and schools involved. So this year, tell me about the school or the group that represented Australia in the challenge that only finished last week.
Well, first of all, we could only have one team representing Australia. Each country, when you get to the finals, can only have one team. So we had a programming challenge back in July where all our teams had the opportunity to run through a simulator with their code. Now, the interesting part here was that, as Jackie has said, other countries had universities, teams, and all the rest of it. We had university teams, but we also had high schools. And as luck would have it, the team that actually won the programming challenge and representing Australia was a Dream Rover team from the Sydney Robotics Association. And they were a high school team, but they also had an 11-year-old girl from primary school as part of the team. And she was certainly not just a token person. She was fully involved in the programming, and they went on to represent us in the finals.
And they beat a couple of university teams to get into the tiered level that they got to be in for the competition. And so then the competition's only just finished. Today is the 29th of October, so it was only on the weekend. And they didn't finish, but neither did 4 other teams. So it's very interesting because the simulator is quite different to real life, but at the same time, NASA Ames scientists, JAXA scientists, JAXA astronauts, people from all the different countries were all gathering data about the competition and about the robots and the code. So this isn't scratch coding or Blockly coding. What kind of coding is it, Bob, and how do they learn it?
This is Java programming, and it's done on the same platform that you build for the Samsung style of telephone. Android, that's the word I'm looking for. So the Android system. So we do training sessions to treat people how to use the development environment. And as Jackie has said, this is a step up from some of the programming done in schools, but it is the absolute cutting edge development of what's happening today. But something that you need to bring into the conversation is, why are we doing it? Because right now on the Earth, you can sit and you know where you are. How do we know that? Everybody's got a phone, we've got GPSs and all the rest of it. But those GPS satellites all go around the Earth to give us all that information that we know where we are. Once we get outside the Earth, we haven't got a GPS system. So what they're actually doing is working out a brand new navigation system using optical information from cameras. Because when you go onto the moon or other planets, you haven't got any form of GPS system. So they're developing with these robots by using cameras to work out where they are. And this is absolute leading edge systems.
So every Friday night for the whole duration of the time, Bob and a really amazing programmer who works for us, his name is Henny. Bob and Henny run training sessions. So all the teams log in on a Friday night and then they do some lecturing and learning, and then they talk about what are the issues that the teams are having. And then everyone collaborates. It's not like people are trying to really beat the other Australian team. It's everyone is trying to work together so that everyone is learning. So Gail and Vex, because they had won last year, they've been amazing, sharing what they know, talking about the problems they overcame, and it's a real collaboration. It's not just this team versus this team and we all have, and that team wants to win at all costs. This is about every Friday night, they all talk about what they've come up against when they're programming the code, issues, things that they've overcome. So it's very, the camaraderie is really good and everyone celebrates everybody's win. So that's the difference between this and other competitions where, or even the HSC where it's, when really pushing hard for your personal gain. This is around all the teams learning, all the teams growing, all the teams helping each other to be the best they can be. Now, this program's free, isn't it, Bob?
That's right. But just to follow on, there's no charge. It's put out by JAXA and NASA. But one of the things that we need to also show the camaraderie across all the countries, after the final last Sunday, there was a workshop. And during that workshop, which went for an hour and a half, all the teams that were representing the countries got the opportunity to discuss the way that they overcome problems. But also there were 3 training sessions in this workshop where JAXA and NASA gave input for tips and guidance on how to make your programs better. So all this has been recorded and it will be available for next year's teams to understand the complexities and the programming and hopefully to make a much better final program.
And we have a website, kiboaustralia.com.au, and you can contact us through that website. If you want to find out more information about next year's competition, which hasn't even been announced yet, but we do know it's going to happen. And like Bob said, it's not about competing against each other and not sharing that information. This is about sharing the information. And sure, winning's great, but the thing is, you're a winner if you even enroll and you learn things, and you might do a couple of sessions with Bob and Henny about programming. You might just learn something that you didn't learn before. Already you're ahead and you're a winner. So we have a group called the Gadget Girlz, and the Gadget Girlz formed a group not for this competition, but for last year's competition. And they had no idea about programming or anything. And they said, we're just going to enroll because we want to show that girls can do anything. And we know that we probably will not win, but we're going to learn something. So they did enroll and they spent a whole weekend studying about programming, and they did the Friday night sessions, and they didn't get to a point where they represented Australia, but they said to me that was the best thing because they learned something. And some of them even said, I didn't think it was going to be interesting. I thought it was going to be boring, but I found it really, really interesting. And so, and like Bob said, at the finals, there was a 1.5 hour workshop. And so it means that everyone can tell each other about the problems that they've overcome. So the discussions now, we've had a meeting this week about Kibo for next year. And the discussions are that a lot of countries might combine to do combined training and share their training and their methodologies with each other, so that it's not about this country beating that country. It's about the Asia Pacific coming together to support each other in the space sector. So a lot of the people who have enrolled for teams in this competition, maybe they won't go into a career in this area, but they're trying it out, seeing if it's something that interests them. And it's very surprising how many say, oh, this is really cool. I didn't know I could get a job in this area, or I can't believe I'm operating a robot on the space station, and things like that. So to be able to put down and on your resume or your work experience application form to say, I've actually programmed robots on the space station, you can imagine the person who's reading your resume will be going, really? Tell me about that. So if you're a person who maybe thinks it could be something that you could be interested in as a job, if you're someone who thinks, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm going to give it a go, please kiboaustralia.com.au and fill out our contacts form. And there'll be an expression of interest form up on the website very soon, now that the competition's just done, for anyone who wants to form a team. If you don't know anyone and you just want to register and then join a random team, just let us know. But teams normally, Bob, how big are they and what's the format?
There's got to be a minimum of 3 people. But we're finding, about 5 people seems to work together. And because this is probably a benefit from the COVID exercise, we have, over this last year, worked very hard with all of our teams, and we're very comfortable with doing it in the virtual environment for all the training. And so we've got some of our teams that actually never got together physically, but they still developed the programs. So if you're by yourself and you could be out anywhere, provided you've got an internet connection, you can become part of a team and join in and do all the development as we go forward.
And Bob, mentors, we need mentors, don't we? And also team managers. So the team manager often is a person over the age of 18 who's pretty much managing the team. And it doesn't matter, you all don't need to be the same age. So say a whole family would like to do it, I can't see that would be a problem. Maybe mum could be part of the team and dad could be the team manager. There's no formula for what teams have made up from. And like we said, we had an 11-year-old very talented girl from our Tarman Public School being the Australian winning team this year. So you can have mixed age groups, mixed gender, mixed school, mixed university. So as long as you're a student in Australia, and you can be part of this program. So is there anything else, Bob, that we need to say?
I think that we just need to emphasise that it was a great time over the 6 months or so, and you can't beat sitting in real time, hooked in on your TV or your computer at home and working with the International Space Station and the astronauts and seeing the Astro Bee walking around within the Kibo module with your code. It's just it's something which is definitely out of this world.
And I need to say, from my perspective, that whole linking up with the space station, knowing how fast it's traveling, circling the Earth every 90 minutes, and on board of robots, and those robots are being programmed by people on Earth. It's an amazing, sometimes you just sit and think, wow, haven't we come a long way? But a good friend of ours said to us that doing the impossible is quite easy. You start with the possible, and then you slowly make your way, and then suddenly you're doing what you thought was impossible. So if you're someone who thinks this sounds an impossible thing, I could never do it, I think you need to sign up and prove to yourself that you can do it, because this collaboration with all the Asia Pacific nations and JAXA and the Australian Space Agency enabling this opportunity, we need to take every opportunity that's given, because there's really no excuse. It just takes an internet connection and some time. There's no cost to it, and the experience is something that you will never forget, right, Bob?
That's correct. And we're looking forward to the teams for 2022.
So kiboaustralia.com.au and fill out the contacts form. If you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you sign up for 2022.